Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Wellness Matters. I'm your host, Heather Crocio, and this is a place where we discuss all things mind, body, spirit. And today, I say this every time, like today is going to be so amazing, but today I not only have one guest, but I have two amazing, magical beings that are here to have a fabulous conversation. And they are the founders of DayLuna, whom I've been following on Instagram for I don't even know how long now, but I just love everything that they produce. I just got done telling them, if you are on Instagram and you want a good pick me up, check out DayLuna because their pictures are amazing, their reels are amazing, their book is amazing, their courses are amazing. Everything they do, like literally, is just life changing. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce these two amazing women. Today, we have Shayna Cornelius and Dana Stiles, who are human design specialists. Like I said, they're authors, they're spiritual teachers, channels, and guides, they're creatives and healers, and they facilitate breath work and retreats. And by the way, they have their own podcast. So, did I leave anything out from you guys? Because you guys have like quite the resume going on.
No, you didn't. We have so many things that we do, and it's all about human design, right? So we really like to use human design in so many different ways because people learn in different ways. So we
Yes.
have ritual kits, we have a podcast, we do retreats, we have a book. There's just so many things.
You're
But
literally hitting
yeah.
all the learning styles. I love that. That's so
Yeah,
amazing.
totally. And it's really fun for us because, with human design, we really see that everyone learns in different ways. Everyone dives in different ways. Some people are really kinetic learners and need like a physical, tangible thing. Some people really need to read, and listening to a podcast is not great for them. So we have
Yeah.
all of these different ways that people can dive in. And it's been really fun for us to be able to tweak the information that we're sharing to fit a really diverse range because we have this love for diversity and this understanding that everyone is so different.
You are speaking my language. I have been a teacher my whole adult life. So I was teaching kindergarten, and now I own my own preschool. And everything that I have done since an adulthood, no matter who I'm speaking to, has been how can I translate this message the best way so they can learn what I'm trying to say? And so that makes so much sense to me. I love that you guys are trying to touch on all the different learning styles because again, I have been diving into human design now for probably like 2 years now. And it is so true how we are all uniquely made. And um, I just got to say, so Shayna and Dana just got done with a retreat that, again, if you check out their Instagram, it's amazing. I wanted to be there. But I think one of the coolest parts about like one, I kind of felt like I was there with you guys, but two, you came back with the most powerful message of, okay, I absolutely love what I'm doing. You've been, teaching human design and been totally immersed in it for years, and you came back even more refreshed knowing that there are 8 billion people on the planet, and how can we keep spreading the word of this tool so everybody can learn what their type is and how they can best utilize that. And I find that so refreshing because sometimes I feel like people get into kind of like a, I don't want to say like greedy mentality where they're just like, no, only I can know this information. You're like, no, I want to spread this to as many people and then they can share it with more people and so on, and create that ripple effect. And I think that that was so well received for me because I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet. We need help from each other. We need to work together and get these messages out. So I love that you guys said that and so much of your stuff since you got back from your retreat. But before we continue on about all this fun stuff, could you give the listener a little bit of a background of what human design is and how did you guys find each other and create this amazing business that you have for yourselves?
Yes, I'd love to. Well, thank you so much for sharing your reflections. It's really making our hearts just sing hearing you reflect back because we do feel like with our retreat, like we can feel our interconnectedness with all of the people who are on the same frequency as us. And so
Mm.
there are people who weren't there in person, but they would message us like, I feel like I'm there in spirit. And
Yeah.
we genuinely were like, we feel like you're here in spirit. Like we can feel you. And when we're
Oh.
on the same frequency like that, this love and acceptance and really wanting to learn who we are as unique individuals, when we're all on that same frequency, our interconnectedness really always blows our minds. Like we are riding the same frequencies, we're riding the same waves, we're having the same downloads at the same time. You know, our
Mm.
missions are interconnected. So it really brings us so much joy to have that. It's been one of the most beautiful gifts that our business has given us is having that soul family. I think that's something that we felt like we were really
Mm.
missing before
Yes.
human design. So kind of diving into what is human design. In short terms, human design is the science of differentiation. It is a science that is a synthesis of different ancient modalities, including Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, and the Kabbalah tree of life. So it's taking all of these ancient spiritual sciences that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, and it's adding them together and showing you the truth of the total of those things and pairing that with modern sciences like quantum physics and biomechanics and our DNA even. Now, human design is a synthesis of these things, but it was downloaded by a man named Ra Aruhu in the late 80s. And he had this encounter with a entity that he calls the voice, where he channeled in and felt and saw the way these different ancient modalities come together as one. And so Shayna and I came upon human design in kind of like the dark night of the soul before our Saturn return, which
Mm.
is, if you aren't familiar with what your Saturn return is, it's an astrological transit that we all experience from around age 27 to 30. And that's happening because the planet Saturn is making one rotation, one orbit, and returning back to its original place it was when you were born. And when that Saturn happens, when it returns back to that time, it is a
Mine.
strict
Oh.
lesson giver.
Yes, mine was insane. Mine was, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I had no idea anything about it, but yeah, it was just complete craziness for me for about 2.5 years. I became
Yeah.
insomniac. I was pregnant with my daughter. My
Wow.
parents split up. There was like just so much going on. I keep calling it like just like this hot mess of a soup that was just, and it was like I questioned everything after that. Like, why am I here? Why do we wear clothes?
Yes.
What is the point of everyone being on this planet? Like, I really went deep. That's when I started to meditate and do yoga. Was Yeah, I was about 29 at that point because I was like, something's got to give. I got to figure out what foot I'm supposed to put in front of the other. And I look back now, I'm like, wow, I was really like opening up then, and I didn't know it. And then 2020, I really had a massive awakening again. But that Saturn return is like crazy, insane.
Yeah. And it's even though it's quite challenging, you know, anything in your life that's not aligned for you is going to come to the surface in a big way for you to face it. And those things that are not in alignment for your highest good are going to crumble. And you have to navigate that
Yeah.
crumbling and that oh shit moment. And for
Yep.
both of us, you know, for Shayna and I, we're the same age. So we were going through it around the same time. And for me, my dad passed away. Like there was just, you know, so much stuff to navigate the dark night of the soul kind of energy.
Yeah.
But it was cool because so Shayna and I had been best friends. We met in college a long time ago now. We were 17 when we met. And in our dorms, we were next door neighbors. And we, you know, became such close friends. We always had this connection. Like we just felt like we saw the world in the same way and we felt
Yeah.
different than our other friends and we
Yeah.
weren't really sure why. And so after school, we stayed best friends and we went out into the world and we like tried to find our way. And that led to a process of getting corporate jobs and really striving to find success and just trying to do the grown up things that we felt like
Yep.
we were supposed to do. And,
Mhm.
you know, on our own kind of separate journeys. And during that Saturn return period, it was just this undeniable moment of like, I hate my life that I've
Yeah.
created. I
Yeah.
hate this job, even though it seems good on paper and I sound successful to my parents or to society. I know how exhausted I feel. I know how I don't feel seen for who I really am. I feel like a shell of myself. I was living in the spiritual closet, if you will. And I feel like Shayna was too. Like, we had different careers at that point, but we just didn't feel like we got to show up as our full self. And we both had this feeling of like, this cannot be it. This does
Right.
not feel right.
That's what
I'm
kept hitting me. I
exhausted.
was like, this is it? This is what life
Yeah.
is? It's just like, this rat race and you're on the hamster wheel every single day in and day out, and then you die? No, that
Yeah.
can't be it. And then it was
It
like,
can't be.
no.
Totally.
Wow, that's so amazing. Did you have anything to say
Yeah.
to that? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, when you're in that place, which I feel like so many people can resonate with being, living a life that they thought they had to and that they worked really hard to climb up some sort of ladder.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're like, wait, this is it? Like, how do I keep going? How do I keep showing up every day? You're sitting in your office and you're literally counting down the hours. Like, when do I get to go home? And then
Right.
the next day, you're getting dressed for a job that isn't even you. Like, you're putting on clothes, almost like a costume for some role that you have to fill. At least that's how it felt for us. And
Yeah.
so we were both talking about this, after we'd been in these roles for a few years. And while there were amazing benefits that we, learned and received from these jobs, it was just okay, who am I? Like, who am I? What is
Right.
right for me? If this isn't it and I thought it was it, like, what is it? So we went on this journey of really exploring that. So that led to, yoga and breath work and meditation and going on retreats and astrology. And then eventually we came across human design. And, in that time, we also, explored Enneagram and
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs, all these like personality things to try to tell you, who are you? And when we heard about human design, it was the first one that was like, oh my gosh, how have I never been told this information before? Every single thing that I'm learning about, I've never even heard before. Like, I didn't know that these were things that were different or unique or consistent. And the beautiful thing about human design is that it gives you action steps, like actual tools and practices that you can do to start living your design and
Yeah.
working with your energy. So, human design is really telling you how your energetic body operates and how it's different than other people. So, if you think of your energetic body like a car driving down the road, we're all without human design or without, questioning life, if you will. We're all
Yeah.
kind of driving down the road with a blindfold on and just hoping we're getting where we're supposed to go and we don't drive off a cliff.
Yeah.
And we also don't know what type of car we have. Some people are electric, some people need diesel, some people, are hybrids. And so, really understanding your energetic vehicle and being able to then operate it in the way that is the most optimum for you as an individual, that's really what
Mm.
human design will show you. So, that practical side of it is what really got us hooked, because it was this driver's manual, if you will, and we could start applying it that day. Like, okay, tomorrow or, today, I'm going to choose to lean into my operation. We would call it your strategy in human design, and
Yeah.
start really living my life in a way where I feel like I'm, floating downstream versus swimming upstream.
Yes.
And then for every big decision, we're going to use our individual intuition or internal compass. And we call that your authority in human design. So each person has their own authority. There's 8 different ones. And it tells you how a consistent way for you to make decisions that are energetically correct for you. So we kind of set a month of, we are going to use our strategy and authority every single day for the next
Wow.
month and just see what happens. And in that month, literally everything in our life changed. Like, we got so many opportunities coming to us. We had so much clarity about what we wanted to do next. We were just kind of trust falling into this experiment, and it was mind-blowing to us once again, like, why weren't we taught this in school? Like, how has no
Yeah.
one told me this before?
Yeah.
And it's really refreshing because, Myers-Briggs or astrology or Enneagram, they all are beautiful systems that can give you so much insight. But I always left feeling like, okay, but who am I? Like, still, like,
Yeah.
these are great reflection tools, but like, what do I do with this? Like, how
Right.
does this change the fact that I hate my job? Like, how does this change the fact that I don't know
Yeah, where do
what
I
it is that I
go?
want?
Right.
And for some people, they are born with a really uh big sense of self, of like, I know who I am. I know what makes me different. I would hear the messaging all the time, like, be yourself. That's all you need to do. Just be yourself. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. How? Like, what
Right.
does that even
Right.
mean? Be myself.
I remember
And
feeling the same way. I was like, "What does that even mean?" Or, you can't, like,
yeah.
love other people until you're loving yourself, and it's like, "Do I love it?" Like, what does this all mean, you know? I
Yeah,
remember
like,
feeling
what
all
makes
those
me
same things.
different than
Yeah.
my best friend or than my parent or my sibling or my boss? Like, what makes me different than them? Like, I'm just
Right.
seeing people who I think are successful or I think are good or who I think are doing something right, and I'm trying to be more like them or mimic them or copy their morning routine and see if maybe that makes me more successful or more
Right.
whatever.
Right.
But like, is that me? The copier of other people? The
Right.
comparison of
Well,
other
and I think
people,
that we
right?
all do. I think we all do. My
Yeah.
daughter's 14, and she had a friend over recently, and I noticed like the friend was a little bit more dictating what they were going to do. And after, she had gone home, I was like, Ave, you have a voice too. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to do that, you can say that you don't want to. But I noticed that she was people pleasing already. You know what I mean? And it starts at such an
Yeah.
early age, and you just want to fit in. You want to follow the rules. And like, I did all the same things too. I went to school, then went to college. I got the job. I got the husband, and the kids, and I did all those things. And even though, um, I've always been so blessed and happy about the life that I have. It's something just felt like it was missing. And I didn't know what that was, that expansiveness, until I really started to harness more of spirituality and all that. And then, everything kind of unfolded from there. But do you guys think that we're changing? Like, I know we're in a new paradigm, right? Like, I was just walking with my son. We've been walking every day together for, since the weather turned here. And we were walking yesterday, and I could tell he had something on his mind. I'm like, what's going on? And he was just he's 15, going to be 16 this summer. And he was saying, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember having those thoughts really at that age, but maybe I did. I know that you're supposed to, where you're going to be going to college by the time you're a junior. And, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And I was just trying to tell him, I was like, I don't think that any one of us really knows what we want to do at this age. I think the things kind of will show themselves to us if you're willing to look at the signs and all that. But, like you said, this is kind of like a roadmap. Like, I just remember, when you become a parent, everyone's like, oh, there's no guidebook to parenting. There's no guidebook to life. And it's like, human design kind of is, this is kind of, here's the nuts and bolts. You can take it and, apply what you want with it. And like you said, start to experiment with it. And I really like that experiment of trying each thing out for a month. But yeah, I'm going to
Yeah,
actually try to do that for myself. But do you guys feel like there's a shift now for kids? Like, I don't know. It's almost,
definitely.
yeah, and it's almost like college isn't as pushed down their throat as it was when I was in
Yeah.
school. It's like, if you don't go to college, then you're not going to amount to anything. And that's all I heard from teachers, everybody, right?
Yeah.
And now it's more like, at least maybe that's just the people I'm surrounding myself with, or what I want to see, more of,
Yeah.
choose what lights you up versus what college you want to get into. I don't know. Do you think that there is a shift in
Totally.
there?
Yeah, I do. I think that, the fact that we have languaging, so a big freedom or liberation that human design offers is it gives you languaging for things that you've always felt. And it's
Mm,
like, oh, I just didn't know that that was real or that that was unique or special. And so the with social media and the fact that we can
Yeah.
communicate in a second with somebody across the world and learn from somebody across the world in a moment, whereas that wasn't really a thing for us. We had to
So
go to
true.
the library and look in an encyclopedia and like
Yes.
get information that way. Like now kids get information so quickly that
Yeah.
there's much more languaging and descriptions and information on these things that everybody's feeling but maybe nobody's talking about until now, and all of that. So I think that with the languaging for the things that we're feeling
Yeah.
and experiencing, that kids younger and younger are getting more um awareness
Yeah.
around themselves as an individual and like what's actually important in life, and that there are other options outside of, your library, which we didn't
Yes.
really have. It was like, okay, I'm not even going to think about what I'm the rest of my life because the I just got to get into college. Like, how do I get into
Right.
college? I got to apply for scholarships and I got to like, it was just set out for us, and there weren't that many resources available to show us that there are other options. So I definitely think it's happening like sooner and sooner. But
Yes.
what were you
That
going to
makes
add,
me
Dana?
happy.
I was just going to say also that these old structures that have been built in an old paradigm, things like
Hmm.
school and our healthcare system and the way that we work. I mean, our school was literally built to emulate this industrial revolution, working in a factory. The bell rings in the morning, you start work, the bell rings in the evening,
Prison.
and you're done. It's
Yeah.
literally like
People
to
are comparing it to prison now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so those systems, we were sold this lie that like if you go to college, then you'll be successful and you'll earn more money. And instead, our generation, the millennials, are like still paying off our student loan, didn't ever use our degree that we are still paying for and are earning
Right.
less money than, whoever. And so we're just seeing the old system crumbling, and
Hmm.
the kids that are coming in now, they've been born as the system is crumbling their whole life. They've
Yeah.
only ever seen the system not work for people. And so that is being paired with this spiritual evolution that's happening right now. There is a mass awakening that is happening in everyone. It happens individual by individual. And I really, truly believe that the children or the young people that have been born into this world at this time are here for a reason. A lot of the
Yeah.
younger people we're seeing are evolving quicker,
Yeah.
much more quickly than their parents or their grandparents. They're coming into their life purpose at like younger ages, at their Saturn return instead of at like age 45, let's
Yes.
say, for
Yeah.
example. So it's kind of those two things happening at once. The old
Hmm.
structures that were built in the old paradigm crumbling alongside of this new awakening that's happening individual by individual, and then is really spreading on a collective level.
Yes. I was just thinking about that this morning when I was getting ready. So, first of all, my preschoolers are like light years ahead just from when I first started teaching. Like, they'll be like, I need a little bit of space right now. They'll tell the other kids in the classroom, just give me some space right now. Like, they know all about their autonomy, and they know that when they need space and all this, whatever. But I was just thinking about this morning when I was getting ready. I was thinking how all these paradigms are kind of like being exposed and hopefully crumbling. So, therefore, and I know a lot of people feel a lot of resistance to that, like politics,
Mhm.
education, medical system, all those things, because they're like, no, if it breaks down, then what's left behind? But it's like, let's change that mindset to if it when it crumbles, right? What comes up after that is going to be so much more harmonious for the rest of us, because let's face it, there's cracks in every one of those things that I just like spoke about. And it's interesting. So what I was thinking about was just how many more kids I see that are being homeschooled now, and versus when I was in school. And like, you didn't do that when I was in school. It's like, no, like one or two kids per grade would do that. But now it's like there's communities of it now, because they're just like, no, we want to do things on our terms now. And I'm not here for or against or anything. It's just I see now so many more people not just taking what is given to them, they're kind of going into their own power. So I agree with you. I just think we are shifting in a lot of ways. And some people might see it as negative, but for me, I'm thinking this is the only way change can occur is through this evolution, right? Of all these things moving. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I hopefully it all works out.
Yeah. And I think that it's up to us as individuals to honor our truth and the things that we want to create. The vision we have for the world is something that we're here to create in the way
Yes.
that's right for us. Like, and the crumbling is scary because change is scary.
Mhm.
As a human, change is scary. But if we look at nature and we look at the seasons, in the winter, the tree loses all of its leaves and it has
Right.
to go through this death in order to be reborn. It's a natural part of the way that we grow is
Right.
letting something die off, letting it shed, and then being reborn in the spring again. So we're in that period, and it's not going to all happen at once. Like every system is going to crumble over once. It's we're
Right.
seeing aspects of each system crumbling one piece at a time, and those people who it's in alignment for them will rise to the occasion to make
Yes.
something better that is a more
Yes.
harmonious solution. And so I think that in this time, it's really important to focus on empowerment for individuals. And a lot of times that comes through education. It comes through
Yes.
honoring each individual with who they are. And that's something that's really cool about children in general is to just see how they are so aligned with their design without even knowing it. Adults are conditioned AF because we've had to be. We've been taught like this is how society works. And if you don't like shut up and dim your light, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to pay your
Right.
bills. So a lot of adults have so much conditioning that's pulled us away from our true self. But when you look at children, they are like a
Yes.
shining light of their uniqueness and they're so much more connected to source than we are. So they're
Right.
closer to that portal of coming into life. And, we've been taught in our old paradigm conditioning that we can't trust children, that they don't know, and that we as adults do know. And
Right.
instead, when you meet these young, like little
They're the
stars, light
ultimate
children,
teachers.
yes,
Ultimate.
they have so much wisdom. They have so much inherent knowledge, and they really know what they
Mhm.
want and what's right for them. Of
Mhm.
course, it's adults, responsibility to keep them safe and to provide healthy boundaries and parameters for them to
Right.
have that freedom and creativity. But I think meeting adults that either are parents or work in childcare or work in education like you, like it's just so inspiring to meet aware, conscious individuals that are in that space because you can create these beautiful
Oh,
containers for these little
yes.
wise beings to do their
I
thing.
know. Well, and I was just thinking about this. I was on a walk a different day with my son, and we were walking, and I was like, he was kind of thinking, "What am I going to do with the rest of my life?" I'm like, "Bud, you're 15. You don't need to be stressing over this." But then we started talking about education. I'm like, how amazing would it be if you were in like a position where you could change parts of the education system? Like, can you imagine if we had Reiki teachers pushing Reiki healers pushing into classrooms to help kids that are like feeling nervous, or they're feeling like they got too much energy and they don't know what to do with it, or moving through some big emotions, whatever. And if we had like just Reiki healers or energy healers, and just all these different like human design people coming in and actually helping the kids figure out all these big life and huge emotions that they're going through, how much easier education would be to take in. And
Yeah.
so we were just having like this kind of like big conversation about, he's like, that would be amazing. And I was like, I know
Oh,
you could help change that. So yeah, to be continued. We
I love
got some
that.
time, but
I know we always say that, human design in schools with children, that's really what it's here for, is to affect the
Mhm.
next generation. The younger you
I
are
love that.
supported by your design, the less conditioning you pick up because you have a sense of self, a sense of, oh, I have, for example, an emotional wave. I have emotional authority where you have
Yeah.
random emotions, and it doesn't have to do necessarily with something that happened to you in your day. It's just you're experiencing an emotional high for no reason. Like,
Me.
great. Or an
Yeah.
emotional low for no reason.
Yeah.
Great. This is just not a time to make a big decision. Right. And
Right.
so
Right.
just having that awareness, or the awareness that you don't have an emotional way, but you're really empathetic to other people's emotions. So if you're feeling a really strong emotion out of nowhere, it's oftentimes because you were around somebody who was having an emotional experience and now you're amplifying it. And
Mm,
being able to just have that awareness is
yes.
huge. It sets you free to stop questioning, like, am I bipolar? Am I
Right. Am I
emotionally
just chronic?
distraught? Am
Yes,
I
chronic anxiety.
depressed?
Yeah.
Exactly. You can really understand, oh, I'm just really empathetic. and my
Yeah.
friend is having a hard time and I'm feeling that with them. That's
Right.
beautiful. And
I
it
love
just
that.
sets you free to kind of set down all of those questions and angst and anxiety. But yeah, human design is so complex, right? So there's 5 different types. These are
That's
like
what I
the
was going to ask
broader
you.
categories.
Yeah.
And this is where, most people start and they're like, oh, okay, I'm a manifester or a generator, a manifesting generator. There's also projectors or reflectors. Those are the 5 types. And you learn about your type. It's like, tells you how your energy is meant to exchange energy with the world around you and what way it's going to feel the most supportive for you and supportive for other people and with the least amount of friction.
Mm,
And if you just kind of stop there, it's
right.
just scratching the surface because everyone fits into one of those 5 categories. But then you get into your authority, how you make decisions. So there's 8 different authorities. Some people make decisions best with their gut instincts. Some people have an emotional wave, like I said, and they need time to ride out their emotions, make sure they're neutral to really have clarity to make a decision. Some people have instincts like we call it your splenic instincts, where you just have this intuition of this just feels right or this just feels wrong, and it happens really spontaneously in the moment. Were you listening?
Yeah.
And that one's really interesting because we have a lot of messaging, trust your instincts. We also have a lot of messaging, trust your gut, right? And
Yeah.
or even take your time, like sleep on it. And if that's your authority, then that's really helpful messaging. But if you have emotional authority where you're meant to give yourself time and somebody's telling you to trust your gut or listen to your instincts in the moment, that's really going to throw you off course. But that might be what works for them. So that's why they're giving you that advice, right? So those are the
Yeah.
3 most common authorities. There's also some authorities that, like mine, where you have to talk it out to hear your clarity and to understand what it is that you even want. Because if you don't speak, it's just kind of mumbo jumbo in your mind, but speaking makes it linear for you
Oh.
to actually understand what it is that you're wanting. And then there's others where you have to really just like the first thing you blurt out, that is exactly what is right for you. So it gets really interesting because you can really experiment with that. Like, okay, my next decision, I'm going to sleep on it. Or my next decision, I'm going to really ask, like, does this feel right in that moment? And that first thing I feel, I'm going to trust it. Or that gut feeling, I'm not going to question that anymore. I'm just going to go with it on that next decision that I have. So it becomes kind of like this fun experiment because you really can put it to practice and see, like, did that work out for me? Did I feel supported or not? So then it gets more layered. We get into your profile, which talks about how you learn and how you teach and how you connect. Whereas we're all 2 4s here. So we all connect in a very cozy and intimate way. We really like to make people feel safe and seen and connected,
Mhm.
but we also like our alone time. And we need
Yes.
our hermit cave. We
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
be able to retreat and be away from other people. So there's 12 different profiles. Then we get into how you're empathetic and how you're conditioning other people. Like I said, some people take in emotions. Some people can really see people's perspective and they have a really open mind. Other people are taking in people's anxiety or fear, or they're helping heal people's bodies around anxiety and fear. So there's so many different nuances. It gets really, really complex and layered, but we say this all the time, like we're going to talk about human design probably the rest of our lives because it's that complex, because we're complex as humans. There's not a
Right.
one size fits all for anyone. It really is looking at, okay, what are your gifts? What is your purpose? What are the things that are going to set you free versus like just do this 10-minute morning routine every day because it works for me, and so this should fit for you. Make decisions in this way because it works for me, so it should work for you. Really
Right.
becoming your own authority is what human design is teaching you, how to navigate life by trusting yourself versus looking outside of yourself for the answers.
So, say you're somebody who's never heard of human design before, and there's probably going to be listeners who are like, "What are they talking about?" Um, where would they go, and what do you have to have in order to figure out your own chart? Where should they go online? Like, what are the very beginning steps to this?
Yeah, so they can look up their chart for free at a lot of different places online. You can go to our website if you like, which is daylunalife.com. And to generate your chart, you need to put in your birth date information. It's
Mm-hmm.
really important that you have your specific birth time. So if you can, going and tracking down your birth certificate and finding that exact time is best. Even if you're a few minutes off, you could get some inaccurate information. And once you put in all of your birth time information in the place of birth, etc., you'll generate your chart. And when you generate your chart, it pulls up this like body graph that has all of these different shapes and numbers and arrows. And we know that that can feel really overwhelming when you first look at it. But what we want to direct you towards is the written categories that you'll find on that chart. And you'll see your name, you'll see your type. You'll either be a projector, a manifestor, a generator, one of those 5 types we were talking about. You'll see your authority listed out there, your profile. So those are the categories that we want to recommend that you start with. Knowing your type, just in general, how you're meant to use your energy and move through the world is life changing because that gives you that strategy of how you best use your energy and then your authority. So those are which is that decision making. Those are the 2 things that we recommend starting out with. And we do like to say, pick an amount of time. Maybe it's 1 week, maybe it's 1 month like us, and experiment, apply that strategy and use that authority. See how it feels for you. That's the coolest thing about human design is we're never here to tell people like this is true or this is not true. We're like, this is an experiment. Use it yourself. Tell us if it feels good for you, if it gives you more confidence, more clarity, if opportunities start coming in when you're operating in this way. And so, with that strategy, like just to give you an example with your chart, Heather, you're a generator that has emotional authority and you have this 2-4 profile, which we've kind of touched on, all of us being 2-4s here, your personality archetype. But your generator aura tells us that you have this open and enveloping aura. We love being around an aligned generator because you just feel so warm and welcoming. Like your energy feels inclusive to people. That's not true for everyone. Some types, let's say, for example, the manifestor actually has a closed aura instead of an open aura. So while manifestors are very powerful people, they can have a lot of energy that starts and impacts people. Their aura literally magnifies the impact of the things that they say or do. They can feel sort of closed off. And that's just happening on a completely energetic level. Whereas for you as a generator, you have this warmth and this openness. When you walk into a room, people feel like your arms are reaching out and giving them a hug.
My
And that's
husband
such a
used to always say
beautiful,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's such a beautiful gift. And it's something that you're doing just with your presence alone. And as a generator, you have this consistent energy that comes from your sacral center, this consistent creative energy to do what you love and to build what you love. Now, that energy is only consistent for you. You only have consistent access to it if you are, in fact, doing what you love, doing something that lights you up, that ignites that energy. If you're doing something that drains that energy that you're not actually into and that you don't actually like, that energy resource is going to dwindle. You are going to feel burnt out. So, as a generator, your greatest responsibility of all time is to be, in quotes, enlightenedly selfish, to do the things that you really love that are lighting up your body. And then you have all of this beautiful life force energy that spills out of you and feeds other people. And if a generator is doing a job that they hate and they're draining themselves and they drain their battery dry, they are giving off that energy to other people. That dull, that lifeless, that like just drudging through the mud feeling, they've lost their sparkle. And they have this sacred purpose of sharing that sparkle with other people, making sure that they're really doing what they love. And so for generators, how do I find what I love is like the big question, right? Like, how do I navigate life to actually find what I love? And you want to use your strategy, which is called waiting to respond. And what that means is that you have this really strong magnetism as a generator. When you're being present and listening to your body, this magnetism pulls to you opportunities, inspiration, people coming to you and asking you things, and then you can just respond to what comes to you. So, as a generator, you don't need to seek, you don't need to force, you don't need to push. We just want you to start listening to your body in this present moment, really getting clear what's in front of me right now in this moment. What is my body responding to? Is my body feeling lit up by this meal? Okay, then this is an alignment for me. Is my body feeling turned off and like drudging through the mud to make this meal? Okay, then this is not an aligned use of my energy. Just starting to listen to and trust your body's response, energetic response to things, starts to increase that magnetism where all of a sudden these amazing opportunities literally come to you. You're just walking down the street and you bump into a sign that is, posted on a cafe wall that's inviting people to apply for this job. And it's like, I wasn't even looking for that. I was just following my body to this cafe because that's what was lighting me up in this moment. And the universe has brought me this opportunity that I can then respond to.
I think the
Yeah.
hardest part, because I've listened to your podcast a lot, especially on the generator ones, and I absolutely love this concept. I love the idea of me just having to respond, but I'm also like a recovering people pleaser controller, where it's like I've always been more in the masculine energies of I need to be productive, I need to produce, I need to make things happen. And surrendering to that knowledge of, okay, things are going to come to me. I am a magnet, just allow them to come to me, actually is nerve wracking for me, because I've done things a certain way. But it's interesting because every time, especially since 2020, when I really opened up to spirituality and all this, whatever project I was working on at the time, it's when I started my podcast, and I became a health coach and all these things. When I wasn't overthinking, which is a lot of what my Virgo type is, if I'm in the shadow, I'm overthinking, right? If I'm overthinking, then things aren't coming to me. But when I like drop the I need to get things done, literally things have fallen into my lap. Like I wrote a book, I didn't have an editor, he fell into my lap. Literally, I was doing a podcast with somebody who was like, I know somebody in your town. And I was like, stop it right now. Like it was
Wow.
wild. And like just today I was on a field trip with my preschoolers, and I was checking my email, and somebody was like, people are, when you have a podcast, people, you guys know that they try to get on the podcast, whatever. And this amazing person was like, we think that this would be a right, in alignment with you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing. As a topic I haven't talked about before, and I'd love to have this conversation. And so I am reminded of it, and I try to do it more often, but it is literally going against those old stories and the old way of being, I guess. Is It's
Yeah.
hard to go against that. Are there specific ways to go against that
Yeah.
that are
So
easy?
it's interesting because your chart, you have the cross of planning. So this is your life purpose, and it's a big part of your energetic gifts. And this is where we get really specific into your chart and your aura. But for you, planning and creating something, holding space for other people, helping your family or your friends or your community feels really good to do. And
Yeah.
so it can be a slippery slope of, okay, I feel really warm to people and connected to people. And so people can sense that I'm really capable, and they can feel more inclined to ask me to do things for them. And
Right.
then it's up to me to have to be discerning to say, do I actually have energy in my body to like, ooh,
Mm,
I want to do this? Or am I kind of just scratching an itch to be of service or to help out or to plan something even? So when it comes to being a generator, and where when you have so much energy around planning, it's always about listening to your body instead of your mind, like dropping into your body, because there can be this like mental pressure of like, okay, I got to figure everything out. I got to make my life happen. I've got to plan this thing and create this thing, because you have this like energy that's there mentally of like, how do I plan, right? Like, how do I make this happen? You also have that energy there, like from your heart, like you genuinely want to, from your heart, but your body might feel like drudging through the mud to do the first task, whether that's like emailing someone
And
or,
some days it does
going
feel like that.
online and working on your website or something, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's tuning into your body and in the present moment. A lot of times we think, there's so much that I need to do and be productive, and you're in this mental like overwhelmed space, but there's so much available to you right now as a generator for your body to respond to. Literally, the email that just came into your inbox, do you have energy to answer it, or do you feel blah, like whatever that means, no for now? Or do you
I
feel like you're
answered it
drudging through the
already.
mud? Exactly. So it's really tuning in as much as you can to like know that, when you're like, what am I going to respond to? What's going to be the thing? How is my life going to happen? Knowing that literally when you're in that place, you're missing all of the stuff available for you to respond to right now, like the text or the email or the food or the conversation with your child or partner or whoever, because you're just an autopilot, because you're
Right.
10 steps ahead in your mind. So your body is just going on autopilot and it's not guiding you to be in the right place at the right time. So as a generator, that's really the goal, is listening to your body as much as you can. So that way it can guide you to that divine timing, to be in that right place, to then respond to that perfect thing that you would have completely missed if you were just in
Mhm.
your head, like trying to figure it out mentally. And this sounds, hearing about generators sounds like, okay, do what you love and do what you have energy towards and don't do what
Yeah.
you don't. Like, isn't that apply to everyone? But no, Dana and I are both projectors, and we can absolutely love something and be totally lit up by it and have zero energy to work on that thing. So projectors are
Mm.
what we call non-energy beings. We do not have that consistent sacral energy that a generator has to build and create the things that we really are lit up by. We have about 2 to 4 hours of energy a day, and then
Yeah.
we need to spend the rest of our time on our fascinations, on the things that are really interesting to us. So projectors are much more um psychological and wanting to understand life in a deeper way. So their aura is very pointed and wants to go inside of something. So wants to ask like,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is fascinating. Why?" Wants to dive into a system or wants to guide someone in how they're doing things. So we like to call projectors the guides. And of course, anyone can be a guide regardless of your energy type. But projector strategy is waiting for the invitation, because if you're going
Yeah.
to go into something with that pointed aura, you need to have consent. You need to be invited. So, really sensing, is there a place? Does this person recognize me? Is there a place for my advice to land? And the main thing that a projector can do each day to live their strategy is ask themselves, like, what fascinates me today? Like, genuinely, what is interesting to me? Because so many projectors are working a job for trying to be a generator and cultivate that energy every single day to show up consistently, and it's just not there, and they're running themselves into the ground. And
Yes.
so really asking, what is interesting to me? Like, start there. And that might be a documentary, that might be a book, that might be a specific topic or whatever, but asking what is really fascinating to me and then why. And within that, what's fascinating to me. And you'll kind of be led down this rabbit hole that gets really specific, like nutrition around our childcare within our, spiritual being. Like, it gets super specific once you really let yourself go there. But
Yeah.
then as you're exploring that, people see you diving into that, and you can talk about the things that you love, but then they start inviting you like, "Oh, can you help me with my kids meal planning, because they're really struggling with this, or can you, make an ebook so that way I can do this and apply it at home?" And you start getting these invitations where before you know it, you have your own business or you have your own offering that is really successful and lucrative, and you couldn't even try to do that from a place of like, what should I do? What makes sense? It's coming straight from your fascination. So I just wanted to give that as an example,
I love that.
because I think sometimes when we just hear about the generator type, it's like, okay, do what you love. Cool. But
Yeah.
it really is, so different based on your type, how your energy is meant to operate. Of course, projectors are still meant to do what they love. Generators can still guide. You have a lot of guiding energy in your chart. And so It's just the way in which you go about guiding. Like for you as a generator, do I have energy to connect with this client today? Do I have energy to hop on this podcast? Or am I just doing it because I should and I want to get it off my to-do list? And really checking in with your body as a generator versus your mind is the main thing. And then as a projector, setting the timer for 2 to 4 hours for the hard output of things that exhaust you, and then asking what fascinates me today. Can you lean into those things? And of course, there's still work that you have to get done, but limiting that to 2 to 4 hours is really the goal to reserve your energy resources.
I love that. What if like there's going to be times when, okay, so say I'm like kind of exhausted, but I know that I'm supposed to go to the gym and move my body because that's the best thing to do for my body, but I'm feeling kind of blah. Do I say I'm not going to go to the gym today? I'm just going to watch Netflix
Yeah,
or yeah,
absolutely. Because your energy is designed to be inconsistent. Actually,
it
you
is.
can have rituals and routines that you really like to cultivate because you have these gifts around seasons and rituals, and that feels really nurturing to you, like routines that feel really supportive for you. But you also are meant to shift and change those. Like it's called this gift of extremes, where you might be really into something for 6 months or 2 weeks, and then completely stop doing that for another
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're meant to kind of flow and shift with that. And so for when it comes to exercise for you, honestly, it really is asking, do I have energy for this? Does it feel right in my body?
Mhm.
And if it doesn't, then it's better, like whatever answers that question, like it feels I have energy to go literally walk to my couch right now. Like
Right.
that is what you are meant to be doing in that time. Whereas your mind is like, exercise is gonna make my body feel good because my endorphins and blah 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 blah. But for
Right.
you have a completely open root center. It's not connected to anything. So we would say it, exercise like that is not necessarily something that you need. It's always, does your body have energy for it or not?
Because
Mhm.
there, I am very, I am, I don't, I think again, it's just because I've always been in control. Like I have these rituals and like practices that I've always done, so I feel like I have to do them. But there are, some days I'm just like, I just am not feeling it. I'm just
Yeah,
not wanting, but I still drudge myself to go there. But it explains why I feel so depleted by the end of the day.
exactly.
Absolutely. And listening to your body, sometimes you'll actually be really surprised. Like something we hear a lot from people is like, if I just listen to my body all the time, like I'm just only ever going to eat ice cream and lay on my couch and not do anything. And we're like, experiment with that because that is not true. Like you'll
Yeah.
find when you are actually listening to your body, your mind might say something like, ooh, I want this ice cream. And then if you actually tune your awareness into your body might surprise you. It might be
Yeah.
like, no, actually, I want this fruit. Like, that's what feels more nourishing to me. It might say, I need to do breath work right now instead of cardio, so instead of something really challenging. And if you actually take the time to quiet that mind, to slow down for just a second, to feel what your body is actually saying, your body knows exactly what you need. If your body's telling you to rest, it's probably because you need rest. If your
Mhm.
body is feeling like this bottled up energy, let's say you're trying to watch a movie with your partner, but your body is like, I got to get up right now and move my energy. I'm like, have this energy bottled up. Like we were saying with kids sometimes, that
Yeah.
happens to adults too, especially if you're a generator or a manifesting generator. My husband's a manifesting generator, which they can have the most energy out of any of the types, almost like
Yeah.
an energizer bunny sometimes.
Yep,
And
that's my
if
husband.
I'm watching a movie with him, sometimes he literally will just stand up halfway through and be like, I'm sorry, I need a break. I need to do some jumping jacks or go for a run. And so, and his body will really tell him or if it's a rest day or if it's a day to do cardio. And
That's
it's so
wild.
funny. We're told this messaging that we can't trust our bodies, that our body is just this like dumb meat suit or this mechanical, fleshy organic thing, but our bodies have so much innate wisdom and divine intelligence. It's just about how does your body communicate to you specifically? And based on your human design chart, it's going to give you a lot of really detailed and specific ways. Like your body communicates to you like this, and your energy flow works in this way. So it's going to give you this support and really show you then how to intuitively listen for yourself.
This is so funny. My husband's a manifesting generator, and literally every time we have family or friends come over, no one will even get up off the couch because they know that Todd will go get them their drink. He can't sit and watch something on the TV for a full like movie or anything. He's just up and around and doing all these things, and like I'll be having conversation. I'm like, can you just like sit down and like look at me in the eyes so I know that you're paying attention? He's like, but this is how I pay attention, like.
Totally.
But it's just I didn't know that there was another one out there. Like,
Yes, absolutely. And manifesting generators are the same type technically, but a manifesting generator is like a variant. They're sort of like a hybrid of that generator type and manifestor type. And so manifesting generators and generators are the two most common types. They have a lot in common in that they both are here to listen to their body above all else. You're both here to respond to what life brings you and to feel that energetic response in your body, to let that guide you. But manifesting generators are designed to have way more interest. They move way more quickly than a generator. Generators feel a lot more grounded, a bit more singular in their focus. Like if they're really into something, they could work on that project for 8 hours. Whereas a manifesting generator, if they're really into that project, they'll work on it for 2 hours and then start a whole new project with a completely different skill set. And so that's the way they're meant to flow.
you
And for
literally described
children,
my marriage. For
yeah,
real. Oh
absolutely.
my gosh.
Absolutely. We have a couple of friends that are a couple together that are a manifesting generator and a generator. We love watching them work together or cook. They are hilarious to us because the generator is like, let's make sure we have all of the ingredients before we even get started. And the manifesting generator is like already chopping things up and throwing it in the pot and being like, shoot, I missed something. And they get to really help each other and support one another and get to kind of come to the same creative process from different angles. So it's beautiful that we have these differences. It's just about understanding it so that we don't drive ourselves crazy trying to compare ourselves to our partner and be like, why can't you sit down and watch a movie? Once you know why, you're like, great, thanks for doing all of this stuff for everyone. I love that you're getting to follow your body's energy.
Right. He used to just be like, I think I have ADHD. And we would laugh it off to that. And so we just like let it be what it is. But once you do figure out, okay, he's a manifesting generator, that makes so much more sense. And you're not labeling yourself with something and thinking that you're broken, so to speak.
Right.
And
Exactly.
you were mentioning earlier about manifestors having like a little bit of like the coldness to them, whatever. It's actually mind blowing how important this information would be, I would think, for even like business owners or, people running like bigger companies and stuff. If you actually knew the exact type that your employees were, you wouldn't like say, oh, that person's just, they're cold and they're bitchy, whatever, just don't even go over near them or whatever. It's like, no, that's not it at all. It might just, that's the way that their energy is projecting, I guess. And
Yeah.
so
So
yeah, it just makes so much sense. Like the more people that know this and can and just like use it in their everyday life in business, I can't imagine how
yeah,
that would
it's
be. Do you guys
huge.
do that with yours?
Yeah, and of course, yeah, we use it with ours, but in general, understanding, so for manifestors, just really quickly, they have this closed aura, like Dana was saying, but the way that they open that is by informing, is by telling people what's going on in their internal world. Like, I'm feeling this, I'm thinking that, and that feels like the biggest chore for a manifestor because manifestors ultimately just want to be doing their thing. They're like, why do you care about
Mm,
what I have going on over here? Like, I just want to be in peace and like do my thing. And manifestors really are here to create. They get these urges of like spouts. That's not the right word, but like bursts. There we go.
yeah,
They get these
yeah.
bursts of energy where they might for 2 weeks be in a deep creative process of, oh, I want to do this and I want to work on that, and they're going, and then they need 2 weeks or more to just rest and take that time off.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
when they can inform and tell people in their life, like, hey, I'm, not sure what I want to do next, but I know that I'm over this, or I'm really interested into this right now. It just allows people to get on board and to understand them instead of projecting onto them what it is that they think the manifester is thinking and feeling. Because if the manifester isn't informing, people then are saying like, oh, that person's cold, or oh, that person's bitchy, or oh, that
Mm,
person doesn't like me, because they're
yeah.
just trying to guess what's going on in your internal world. But you just saying, hey, I've been overwhelmed, or hey, I've been confused, or I'm just really into this thing right now, or even saying something as simple like, hey, I'm going to pick up groceries on the way home, to your partner, just brings them into the loop of your world where they're like, oh, okay, great. And they're on board. Whereas if you don't say that, they're kind of guessing like, okay, I guess I'll order in. Like they probably aren't going to want to make dinner tonight. So then they've ordered in and you picked up groceries and now you feel this friction. So it's just knowing as a manifester, the more that you can inform, which feels annoying, but you'll see it's like a magic wand. Everybody gets on
Yes.
board to support your needs and your vision and your journey. So being a manifester is amazing. We love manifestors. We truly like have the biggest place in our hearts for them because you are incredible as a manifester. You can do and spark so much in the world. And so it's just trusting, okay, I have to open up. I have to share. I have to be the one that starts the conversation or the thing that I'm thinking about. And once I do that, then I'll be carried through this process. So it's all about your energy, how the different ways it interacts, right? Manifestors can still work on what they love. They can still be guides, but the way in which they go about it is through informing and talking about it with the world around them. Whereas for a
Mm,
generator, it's listening to your body. And for a projector, it's working less and focusing on those fascinations and waiting to be invited by the world around you. And then the last type that we haven't talked about is reflectors. And they're about 1% of the population, but for them, it really is about giving themselves a lot of time and a lot of space to reflect the world around them and come to clarity about a month to really understand what is true for them. But they're like our gauges. They can really tap in and sense like, this is healthy, this isn't healthy. So a lot of times we see reflectors who are in management positions where they're testing the gauge of, all the different departments in their company, or where they're, spiritual healers and they're really being able to reflect the person back that they're meeting with and see where they might have blockages and how they can move forward. So we're really just scratching the surface here. The last thing I
yeah.
wanted to say though, for mangens, you are meant to have many, many different interests. If you are just doing one thing all the time, you are going to feel bored. It's time to shake things up. Focusing on play, focusing on things that are just fun for fun's sake, not necessarily productive, is one of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself as a mangen. So if you have a mangen partner like you do,
Mhm.
encouraging that, like, go do something fun, like go for a bike ride, go, for a hike, or take that class that just feels creative and fun.
Yeah.
Letting them have all the different interests and, you know canceling things last minute, having that freedom is really important because they're meant to be bouncing around and innovating things and not just locked into one thing because they said they were going to do it, and so they should put their head down and do it.
Oh my gosh, that's so my husband too. Like he'll come into a room, he's like, "Let's open up a coffee shop," or "Let's do this or let's do that." And I'm like, "Okay, let's see if you're still onto this in 2 weeks." Like these are just
Mhm.
things that I've like figured out after 17 years of marriage, like kind of maneuvering with him, but there are certain things that he has circled back around where I could tell that these are passions versus just a quick little interest of what he's got going on,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
that's where then your authority would come into play, right? Like, okay, let's start a coffee shop. You have all that energy. It's like, okay, then what is your authority? If you have emotional authority like you do, Heather,
Yeah.
then for you, it's like, let's sleep on it and let's really write out those emotions, asking, will it make me happy from a neutral place? But
Mm.
depending on his authority, that's where that would come into play, whether it's gut or splenic or emotional, and really then using that to make those decisions. So that's a really good example for anyone listening. Like, you're using your different type and strategy that we've been talking about here to navigate your day-to-day life. But then once you get that spark or that hit of like, ooh, this is what I want to do, then it's okay, use your authority, whatever that is for you. And there's so many resources out there. Our book is a really great one because it walks you through exactly how to
Love
use your
that book.
authority in real time. It also
Mm-hmm.
walks you through how to use your strategy in real time. So that's a really great resource. It's called Your Human Design, and you can get it anywhere that books are sold.
I'll put it in the show
And
notes too.
yeah, and then also our podcast. We teach a lot on our podcast, which is really great free content if that's where you're wanting to start. We also have a training where we teach you everything about human design, because human design is so complex that you can really use it to empower anything that you're doing in your life, whether you're a therapist or a doctor or a nutritionist or a healer, or even just within your business. If you're wanting to work with business coaching or helping,
Yes,
like you
yes.
said, like bring it to corporations, like Myers-Briggs has been brought. A lot of people are starting now to bring human design because it actually makes the biggest difference in a work setting
Mhm.
to understand the different energetics at play. So there's just so many different applications. It's human design. It can be applied to any human experience.
Right.
So we love it for that reason. It's so expansive and so liberating. So we just feel really passionately called to share it with as many people as possible, because like you said in the beginning, there's so many people on the planet, and our liberation starts by understanding who we are as an individual outside of our culture or religion or our family unit or, you know, our school or our work, but really
Mhm.
understanding who we are as an individual and how we are individually empowered to make decisions that are right for us versus just fitting in and going with the flow and doing what we're told
Absolutely.
and then feeling miserable our whole lives, because that's not why we're here. We're here
That's not
to
why we're
enjoy
here.
our lives and to be free.
I think it was Wayne Dyer who said like our normal reset is joy. Like when you go to like homeostasis, it should be joy basically. And when
Hmm.
you're not, then it's like, okay, you are the only one that can make the changes to bring you back into alignment. And but that's like part of the journey, right? Like figuring out those puzzle pieces. And it's just so beautiful to have all these different types of tools and figure out who you are. And once you do, does life get any easier? Not necessarily. There's going to be things that pop up all the time. But when you have all these new tools set in place, the way you respond and regulate yourself afterwards is everything, you know? Like, I used to be like chronically anxiety ridden all the time. And I was just talking to my husband about it today. I'm like, my gosh, I just don't feel that way anymore. And I'm so glad because I've done so much work around that. And like I never want to go back there again. I never want to have like my nervous system so out of whack that I don't know which end is up, you know? And these tools are here to help us figure out what is our energy, what's not our energy, and how we, you know, decipher between it and live your life in a harmonious way. But
Yes.
yeah.
Beautiful. I loved hearing you reflect all of that. That's so true. And I feel like so for so many of us, you know, the time that we live in the capitalistic society that has really driven us to just work and to, you know, pay the bills, and we have to you just put our head down, like that's not it. And it's not what we're
No,
here for. Like we
no.
really, each person, it's such a gift to be here. Like just statistically speaking, the amount of miracles that needed to happen for you to be here in your body as the person that you are, like none of it is a mistake. It is all so important. I feel like our world is so big. Sometimes we can feel overwhelmed. Like I'm just one person. What can I really do?
Hmm.
But when you think about those numbers of like what a special opportunity it is to be alive here in this
Right.
lifetime, it kind of enlivens you like, okay, let's just go for it. Like, let's
Yeah.
see, like, what happens if I follow my joy? What happens if I decide to accept and love myself instead of beating myself up? What happens if I refuse to do something that is draining me and that I no longer love? Like,
Right.
when we see someone in our lives do that, it's so liberating for others. You know, it happens one at a time. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling like, is that really possible? And if I make that change, will it actually help the world or will it actually help anything? The awakening happens one individual at a time. And
Right.
you are the only person who can reclaim that joy. You are the only person who knows what's right for you and who knows what's wrong for you. So trusting that, listening to that, honoring what a beautiful opportunity it is to get to be in this human experience. I
Right.
feel like it's the only way. It's the only way. And I think it's the way that is going to change our world if we all can awaken to that.
I know. And like you guys just even sitting here are such a testament to like human design and figuring out who you are and just your energetic side to both of you just permeates through the computer. You know, we're doing this all via Zoom, but it's like you're walking the walk, and that means so much. That's why I love doing this podcast, because I love to have put people on to show other people it is possible to break out of, you know, the way you've been doing things and totally pivot into a whole new life. And yes, it's scary, but also, my gosh, how liberating and exhilarating and wonderful it could possibly be. And, you know, because there was a point in my life where it's like you count down to the weekends, you're like, oh my gosh, I only have 2 days off. You know what I mean? Like, it's Friday, yes. And then it's like, oh, it's Sunday night. You know, like we shouldn't be
Mhm.
living that way. You know, that's not life. It shouldn't be that way. It should be more
Totally.
fun and magical. And it can be, as long as you're like, the people have to realize that it all comes down to worthiness. I feel like if you're not feeling your own self-worth, then you're thinking, well, who am I, right? And I went through all that. I went through all these things, these limiting beliefs and the ego keeping me back, and, you know, all these things, but it is possible to break out of them. And that's what I love, having people like you on the podcast to show that it is possible, and you don't have to be unhappy in this life. So I could just talk to you guys forever, but I know we got to wrap things up, but what is the best way that people can find you? I know you already said it, but we'll just say it one more time, and I'll definitely have it in the show notes. And, you know, I'm telling you, people, you got to follow these people.
Yeah. So our website's daylunalife.com, and we're DayLuna, like a day moon. So DAYLUNA. And you can find us on Instagram at DayLuna. And you can dive into our podcast, the DayLuna Human Design Podcast, anywhere that you listen to those. And yeah, we just have so many offerings, like you said, that you can really explore what those are on our website and on our Instagram, and our book, Your Human Design, anywhere books are
Yes.
sold. And that's basically it, but I know I'm probably forgetting something. Oh, we also I forgot.
Mhm.
We also have a membership which is called Your Human Design Besties, and that's where we teach a lot of human design. We have a huge library if you're wanting to dive in but not fully become a reader or take the whole training. And we meet every month to be able to really do our energetic housekeeping and check in with our auras, and we've really created a community where people are on the same frequency. They're dedicated
Yes.
towards being themselves, being their authority. And it's really beautiful when you gather with like minded souls to
Yes. Yes.
commit
Game
towards your
changer.
rising in this way that's so unique and different from other people. So
Mhm.
that's a really beautiful space if you're wanting to join some sort of community. You can find that on our website as well. So, yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's been such a
Yes.
pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Yes. Thank you so, so much for coming on the podcast. And yes, to the listener, I hope that you were able to find lots of gems in this podcast that you can then go after and figure out what it is. What is your human design? What is your type? What is your profile? What is your authority and your strategy? And start experimenting with it. I know I'm going to really start experimenting more and being more conscious of it. Like I feel like I do quite a bit, but I'm going to do even more and just see where the magic takes me. And I'd love to hear from you too, how things go for you. So yeah, thank you so much, Dana and Shayna, for being here with me today. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Let's see.